What if the secret to thriving under pressure isn't pushing harder? It's mastering clarity, energy, and purpose to really share your voice in self-leadership and leadership to others. Today's guest shares on this. Disclaimer. Any of the guidance offered by the podcast host, myself, or the podcast guests is our own guidance. We are not liable for any of the actions the podcast listener decides to do. So, Jay Abbasi is a global keynote speaker, TEDx speaker, coach, and former Tesla leader who helps professionals thrive under pressure without burning out. At Tesla, he led national training programs for over 1,000 employees and has since coached leaders at Google, Amazon, TikTok, Wells Fargo, and many more. He's been featured in Forbes Founder, Authority Magazine, and Medium, and is the host of the top-rated podcast Unstuck, blending corporate experience with deep expertise in mindfulness, resilience, and well-being. Jay offers a powerful message. Success isn't about avoiding challenges, but mastering them with clarity, energy, and purpose. Welcome to the show, Jay. Glad to have you on today.
Johnny, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Jay, lots of experience in different areas of life, and it sounds like you've been on quite a journey and getting to work with some amazing companies and leaders in these places, like I mentioned, Google, Amazon, Wells Fargo, many, many more. How did you get it? I'd love to hear a little bit about your journey into how you got into leadership coaching and coaching people at these big companies.
Yeah, so I'll take you back, Johnny, to when there wasn't any interest in any of these things, and then what triggered a change in me. When I was working at this finance company. It was one where I just didn't feel really excited about the work. I was kind of at a stage where I just said, I want to get promoted. I want to make money. I want to, achieve at a high level. I want to succeed. But I didn't really have the path to do it. And I was working myself to the bone. And because of it, my marriage was falling apart. I was 40 pounds overweight. It was just not a good time in my life. And it was in 2014 when I lost my father very suddenly to a heart attack. It was very unexpected. And it really forced me to look at how I'm living my life and wanting to be better and wanting to not just succeed, but also be happy and enjoy the ride. My daughter was 2 when my father passed away, and I felt like I wasn't being a great dad. I wasn't leading by example. And so I wanted to be better for her. So then I became interested and obsessed with personal development, professional development, leadership, because I realized that this is the pathway to making a greater impact while still having some peace in my life and happiness and satisfaction. So I left that finance company. And I started working for a company named Solar City. And Solar City was the largest renewable energy provider in the United States at the time. And in that experience, at first I was in sales. Then I got into a leadership role. And I was invited to do a few talks because I was figuring a few things out and how to sell and how to explain products to clients and things. And I remember from the first time I was in front of a group of people training on something, it was like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And that then led to me, after Solar City was acquired by Tesla, really growing in the space of training and coaching leaders and developing folks who are trying to work in high pressure environments to be able to perform at a high level. What I did see though, Johnny, was a lot of people were burning out. A lot of people were struggling. So then when I left Tesla, it's been over 7 years now, that became my mission on how to help leaders who are in those high demand environments. How do I help them to be high achievers, to perform well and lead well, and to not have to sacrifice their own sanity to do so? And so now that's what I am honored to get to do through the keynotes and the workshops and the coaching that I provide.
Wow, I love that. I love when you said you got to that moment where you started training. You're like, wow, this really feels like this is what I'm here to do. And you've lived more and more of that and getting the best out of people, helping them to perform as well, which is awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think that all of us, Johnny, have something. I really do. I think like every human being has a unique contribution. There's something that you could give to the world that only you can give. And I think too often what we're doing is we're trying to figure that out by maybe comparing ourselves to other people or going through some assessments and writing things out, when what you really need is evidence. You need to do something, take some sort of action, experiment with something. And then there's just an intuitive feeling. You just know, it's like a combination lock clicks, right? And you're like, that's it. And once you get that, go as far as you can with it.
I love that. I was going to ask you that. That was kind of the question that was coming to mind. Like how someone might be listening right now and thinking, I know your podcast is called Unstuck, might be there thinking, well, I know there's more for me in this world, but I just like no idea what it is. What is it? Like I know it's not this, like what the current situation they're in, but like what is it? So what you're saying is take the action to experiment and then actually see what intuitively feels good when you get into it.
Exactly. And there's two different ways of doing this. One is to reflect back on your past experiences and identify when were those moments where you felt like time was flying. Those instances where you were doing something that was impacting others in a positive way and it didn't feel very hard for you. It may be challenging. Maybe it was challenging you. That's a good thing if it was challenging you. But other people looked at it and said, wow, you made that look easy. That just seems to come naturally to. So maybe you have some evidence from your past that you need to look into and really figure out what that is. And if you don't have that, that's okay. That would be like never having tried ice cream in your whole life and then walking into an ice cream parlor and saying, okay, which flavor do I want to purchase? The wrong thing to do would be to guess the flavor and buy it and then dislike it and have to walk out with the ice cream that you didn't like. The best thing you could do would be to ask for the samples. You know, they give you little samples on those tiny little spoons, right? You ask for a sample, you try out the brown looking one. You're like, I don't know about that one. Then you try the pink looking one. It's labeled strawberry. You try that one. You're like, not that. But then you go to the white one and it's vanilla. My goodness, that's it. That's my flavor. And then you buy the vanilla ice cream. So I would encourage anyone listening, you have to take that approach. There isn't a book that's going to tell you what it is. There isn't a journal prompt that's going to tell you what it is. It's either past evidence of your past experience or some new action that you're going to take that's going to give you the feedback you need to figure out what is that spark.
Yeah, thanks for touching on the past evidence, and I really like the analogy, kind of with the example with ice cream, where you have no idea, do you, until you actually test it, which is what you're saying here. You got to test something to understand it.
Yeah, and you know, Johnny, sometimes I share other people. They're like, well, how do I do that? Like, I'm thinking about a certain career or starting a certain type of business. What would that look like in practice to experience something that you can't really just dip your toes in because you'd have to go fully into it.
Sure.
And my my response to those folks, Johnny, is have a conversation with someone who's doing it. Have a few conversations with folks who are doing it. So let's say you're thinking, you know, I want to get into, I don't know, project management because I think that might be my niche, but I've never done that before. You're like, well, I can't just have a job for half a day to test out. You know, project management is for me. That's true. What you can do, though, is go on LinkedIn and find 3, 4, 5 people who are project managers in their field and ask them to have a conversation and ask them questions and understand what their day-to-day sounds like. And from there, do your best to see, is that something that's intriguing to you? Is that pulling you? Is that attracting you? And could be what then drives you into that next step. And here's the other thing too, you can do your best to have those conversations and gather that information. And hey, if you take that leap and you do try something and it ends up not working, that's more data. That's helpful. That's okay. You can make another decision. You know, that decision that you made to, let's say, go and explore that other type of job or type of industry, it doesn't go the way you wanted. It isn't a lifetime decision. You can make another decision after that. I would say, though, not doing anything, that's also a decision. Staying stagnant and just remaining in a role that you don't feel excited about, where you're feeling stuck, you're making a decision every day there too. Rather, you could choose to either stay like that or take chances. You might fail, you might make mistakes, but at least you're figuring things out.
I guess like I've experienced it when someone's even told me and I've had like a feeling from what they've explaining to me about like maybe a job in my younger days or something like that. And I'm like, but then I was sort of all mind a lot. But yeah, in the body, it's like, it doesn't feel so good. So I like that.
Yeah, it's like
guidance.
an ick, right?
Yeah.
It's like an ick, like an intuitive, like, oh, not this, you know? And that intuition's powerful. You got to listen to it. You really do. I feel like throughout my life, Johnny, like those were the instances where I listened to my intuition. I really did, and I acted on it. Always yielded better results than when I logically justified why my intuition was wrong. That always ended up being a worse result, a worse outcome, because my intelligence, my logical brain got in the way of my intuition. And so I feel like all of us have intuition that we can access. I do think we get clouded with all of our thoughts and justifications around things. It takes practice, I think, to be able to really tune into your intuition.
Do you think we get clouded from influence of others as well? Like, we were talking a bit about social media, which can be great sometimes, and things out there and people saying this is the best career to go, this is the business you need to start. Do you think that can impact us a little bit?
Yeah, I feel like there are so many people out there, and I was one of them, where the goals that I set were not my goals. They were someone else's, whether it was for me, my parents, who told me it's supposed to go like this. You go to college, you get your degree, you get the job, and do all those things. And I was living that path because that was the goal someone else set for me. I feel like the same thing happens with social media. You're right, Johnny. I mean, you compare yourself to what other people are doing, and now someone else's life becomes your goal to live their life. And I think that whenever we're doing that, we're going to be met with resistance because it's not authentic. Your goal has to be yours. And I think the way to work through that is to answer this question: what do you want to experience? Not what are your goals? What do you want to experience? Because goals can be like, I want $1 million. I want to get this job title. And those things are great. They're healthy measures because they're very specific. That doesn't describe the experience. No one experiences $1 million. You experience what $1 million will give you. You don't experience CEO. You experience what being a CEO would actually mean, whether it's affecting people or coming up with creative solutions, innovative ideas, strategy, whatever. So like, that's where we want to start. It's one of my favorite questions I ask people. What do you want to experience? And from there, we can reverse engineer what is the plan to get you to that experience.
Quality question. I love it. What do you want to experience in your life? I love it. Jay, I want to kind of touch on something else. You mentioned, obviously, when you're going into these companies or working with people, finding people with like burnout and really tired. So I'd love to know, for you, what is burnout and why do you think it's such a problem?
Yeah, it's such a problem, especially in today's world, because we are inundated with stimuli and we have no space to be able to process. So there are three components to what I see in people who are burning out. One, they don't feel safe. There is a lack of safety. And I don't mean physical safety. In most cases, it's not physical safety. It's more of their own psychological safety, their emotional safety. They feel like they are constantly under threat. And when you're feeling threatened, you then become the victim in your mind, whether you're aware of it or not, of your surroundings, your environment. The second thing is that we have a distraction problem. Now, humans are already wired for distraction. I challenge anyone who says, today's people are more distracted than people hundreds of years ago. That's not true. We're wired for distraction. It's part of your survival mechanism to be able to recognize a threat quickly and respond to it. The problem isn't that you are distracted. The problem is that there is so much coming at you that is enabling your distraction tendency. You see what I'm saying? So like, if you are constantly in a state of reacting, responding to email, to social media, the meetings that you have, and there's no space, you are not able to concentrate and focus your attention. And that's one of the reasons why people burn out. And then the third thing, so we have not unsafe, we have distraction, and the third one is disconnection. So with disconnection, people are falling into isolation and they are feeling like they're on an island and they don't feel connected to the work. They don't feel like they're connected to the people they work with. And because of that, they are in a state of self-preservation. So all three of these things are building on each other. I call it the hierarchy of burnout. It's I'm unsafe, I'm distracted, and I'm disconnected. And so what we need to then do is get the opposite of those things. We need to help people to cultivate safety. We need them to be masters of their attention. And we have to help them to be able to connect to their work, to themselves, as well as the people they work with.
Yeah, I love that. Like three really good points. And the distraction one was an interesting one, and some points you made there because it made me think. Definitely something I'm always work in practice on distraction. Right, I'm a human being, but I remember reading the book Indistractable by Nur Ayal, I think his name is, and he was saying it's often blamed on like the phone and technology, and yeah, that obviously can be a distraction. But he was saying what you were saying, like humans have always like been distracted. You know, I've taken my phone away, and there's still I found myself in the past finding other ways to distract myself.
So that's why I think, what is important for people to do is commit to practices that help you to cultivate concentration and attention and create space. So I have a formula that I use in my keynotes, my workshops. I call it the resilience formula. And in it, there are three components. It's energy, space, and choice. Energy plus space plus choice equals unshakable resilience. So what we're talking about here is space, the second one. Now with space, there are two ways in which you create space and build up more focus. One is mindfulness, and that is intentionally focusing your attention on the present moment without judgment. And there are many ways to do this, Johnny. I am not an advocate for a one fits all solution. For some folks, meditation is right for them. For others, it's not, and that's okay. For others, it's more of a prayer or spiritual practice. For others, it's maybe just doing some sort of activity, hobby that requires them to focus their attention on what it is that they're doing, and that's it. So I would encourage people to experiment with different ways in which you can bring mindfulness into your life, and that way you're able to create what I call space to observe. I want to create space to observe. So I'm not constantly in go, 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 one thing after another. I'm able to take a step back and observe what's happening without adding a lot of story to it, without projecting a lot of fears or anxiety onto what is happening in the moment. The second category is what I now term mind freeness. So there's mindfulness and then there's mind freeness. Mind freeness is intentionally freeing your mind to explore new ideas and creative solutions. How often are people just not even taking some time to allow themselves to process things because their day is so full? I work with high performers. I work with people who are operating at the highest level in high pressure situations. And they say to me, well, Jay, I have meetings and I have this. I've scheduled my whole day out perfectly. And it's like, there's no time for them to have freedom to think. What I encourage those folks to do is to put time on their calendars, white space, whatever you want to call it, to free their mind, to go out for a long walk and just like, don't have an agenda. Just whatever comes to my mind comes to my mind. Johnny, you ever like go in the shower and the best idea comes to you while you're in the shower? Does that
Yeah,
ever happen to you?
definitely. I've
Yeah.
also implemented just walking in silence with myself, and yeah, that definitely the ideas come then. No music,
Yeah.
no phone. Well, the phone might be in the pocket for ideas, but no scrolling socially. Yeah, best idea.
Right. It's all of us are wired this way. And it's amazing that we don't allow ourselves to do it more. So I feel like anybody who wants to get unstuck, well, one of the things I would teach them to do is incorporate more of that into your life, more freedom to just let your mind go, especially if you're like, I don't know what to do. I can't figure it out. Here's the truth, Johnny. Every person has brilliance and has the answers in them. Every person I ever met, if I just ask them the right questions and I create enough space for them, they come up with a solution. They can do this for themselves if they just have more space to do so.
Giving yourself time to think. I love that. I can also see a high achiever going like, "I'll push that one away," but it's
Of
not that
course, but
important. But it is the most important thing. It sounds to me when you put it that way.
Johnny, I mean, it's common knowledge that we operate mostly from our subconscious. And so Science Magazine reported that 95% of all of our habits, all of our behaviors come from the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is not the language in your head. It is more of the intuition that pops up, the habits and routines that you've built. Here's what's happening, Johnny. It's like, okay, my day is full. I'm one of those high achievers. I don't have time to do what Jay's saying, mind freeness. Not for me. I got too much going on. Okay. What's happening is that person is constantly filling their mind with more and more things. And the subconscious is like, imagine the secretary that's in this office trying to handle all this mail that's coming in. And it's like, okay, I got this one. I got this. And the subconscious is just trying to digest it all. Right. But the thing is, the subconscious has the answers. You're just bringing in too much noise to where you can't allow for this to be a two-way conversation. because it's just incoming, right? But as soon as you silence it, as soon as you do take that walk or you take a long drive and you don't have music playing, the subconscious starts to scream back, "Hey, I have the answer. I've had it this whole time. You just have to listen to me." And then all those answers come bubbling up to the surface.
Love that. Giving the space, so under the space of silence.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sometimes uncomfortable, to just be bored and allow yourself to be bored. I do this all the time, Johnny. If I'm in a doctor's office, I'm sitting in the patient waiting room, I will just sit there. Like everyone's on their phone. Everyone's on their phone. And I just sit and I just sit. And it's uncomfortable and it's weird and I don't like it. And I do it on purpose because it's an opportunity for me to be able to practice being bored and allow myself to be bored. It activates what's called the default mode network, DMN, which is really important for us for creativity. There's a study done by Tel Aviv University and Stanford University. What they found was that when they were doing surgery on patients, they were awake during this brain surgery. When they shut off that network, the default mode network, their creativity disappeared. When they turned it back on, all their creativity came back. It was the first study that proved the default mode network is the cause of creativity. So what's important to take away from that is the default mode network is not activated when you are in a task. There's task positive network and default mode network. They're two different networks in the brain. The task positive network is when you're doing something, you're focusing your attention, you're getting stuff done, you're quote unquote productive. Hey, you need to do that throughout the day, of course. And that creativity component is not going to turn on until you allow yourself to just be bored. You're in a state of autopilot, like you're just going out for a walk, like you said, or you're driving and you don't have to really pay attention. I mean, you're paying attention, but you're not like, I know where I'm going. I could just turn, and then the default mode network turns on and your creative solutions come to you.
I love that. I remember hearing there's one successful business person once who was taking a week off every month to generate their best ideas. Bob Proctor, not him, but like referencing someone or something like that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's really prioritizing that time to think. It sounds like for you. Just
yeah, I do a solo trip normally twice a year. Did I do one this year? I may not have this year actually yet. I intend to do one before the end of the year where I do 3 nights somewhere, ideally a nice destination like Aruba or something. And I just go by myself, and that's the intention. It's just to free my mind to come up with anything. I don't really have, sometimes I'll have kind of like a one intention, like when I was working on my book, for example, like that was the intention, and I would just bang out pages. Sometimes it's more of like, I want to make some change to my keynote or to my business or whatever, and that one intention is out there, and then that time when I'm away, I find all the answers come to me and I come back with a plan.
I love that. Go somewhere nice. Awesome.
Especially for me in the winter, right? I'm in New Jersey, New York. You don't want to be here in November, December anyway, outside of the holidays, but you don't want to be here because of the winter.
Yeah, I got you. Jay, I know a lot. Talking of like challenges, and like you're talking to high performers a lot, working with high performers and working like through challenges. I know some people see challenges differently from others. Some people see challenges like, okay, right, there's a challenge. How do we deal with this? What's the solution? And then there's some other people who kind of panic a little bit. How can someone start shifting themselves to more that solution focus, where they start working through challenges and seeing them as challenges rather than this massive problem?
Yeah. So let me give you an example, I think, of something that happened to me recently, because the story, I think, really breaks down the right approach. So when I first started looking into personal development and wanting to just live better, I was reading books, but I'd also watch a lot of TED Talks and TEDx Talks. Have you gotten into those yourself, Johnny? Like any TED Talks that you love?
I've watched a few, not recently,
Okay.
but yeah, a couple of my friends have been on some, so yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's had a huge impact on me in my life. And I said to myself over 10 years ago, I would love to be on that stage and stand on that red circle. It would be an amazing accomplishment. And it was in 2024 when I was on one of my actually mind-free walks, and an idea hit me. Oh my God, this would be it. This is the talk, And I went to begin applying and looking for opportunities to be on a stage, and I got accepted into a talk that was in September of 2025. So for a year, Johnny, I was rehearsing, hired a coach, really getting after it to be able to deliver a great talk, and put so much effort and energy into it for a full year. And then in September it comes, I'm on that stage, and it's an incredible experience. The crowd Loved it. I got amazing feedback. And I was told that it'd be published in a few weeks. And a few weeks went by, didn't get published. A few months later, still not published. And it was the beginning of this year, 2026, that I found out there was some technical issue at the arena and they didn't capture my audio. And so the audio was all messed up. And they tried to fix it as best they could. Unfortunately, just it wasn't going to be a good representation of the actual talk. So it's not published on YouTube. And Johnny, this was devastating for me. Devastating. I have over a year of working on this. And I'm sharing the story with you because this was my, how do I handle this adversity? Okay. What do I do? Do I just say, you know what, look at the options of how I'm going to work around this and immediately just try to pivot, right? I knew that if I did that, I'm going back to my old ways of suppressing whatever's coming up for me, and it's going to come back to bite me in the end. Now, the other way, which is let it destroy me, I didn't want to go there either, right? So what you were asking me is, okay, how do we balance that to be able to deal with whatever comes up while still being able to look forward at our choices and our options from there? So what I did was I followed what is my 3-step framework of how I work through any challenge. It's the ABCs of how we deal with change. A is acknowledge. I had to acknowledge whatever came up for me, acknowledge the situation, acknowledge it directly. You know what, Johnny? It sucked. It was hard. It was stressful. It was frustrating. I had to go through it and I had to feel it and I let myself feel it. I literally was sitting on this office floor, just sitting on the ground, just feeling everything I felt. I was like, this hurts and I'm going to just let myself feel it. So that was the first thing. Acknowledge whatever came up. Then B is to be curious. Ask myself some questions. Okay, how am I looking at this? What are some other ways I could be looking at it? Is there a lesson here? Might there be something of value that I can take from this experience? What are my options from here? What is within my control? All these kind of questions help you to look at it from multiple angles. And then the third is to channel. So A, B, C, acknowledge, be curious, channel. And with channel, it's how am I going to channel what I gathered from the questions I asked myself? How am I going to channel that into action? And the action that I took following that news was to dedicate myself to the book that I'm writing now. And so I made a very intentional focus on, okay, I'm now going to take that energy that I put into that TEDx talk and I'm going to put it into my book, which will be coming out early 2027. And so that's an example of how I encourage any high performer to work through a challenge. Acknowledge what comes up, get curious, ask yourself some questions, and then channel that into a new action.
I like that, ABC. Yeah. And you're not like suppressing the emotion. You're not just being like ignoring yourself and trying to like push on, but you're healthily actually allowing it to go through your body and process what you need to. But then it's ultimately like redirecting. So I love that kind of healthy balance. Maybe the word balance isn't right, but like that healthy approach of feeling, but not letting yourself get caught in some kind of story and being stuck.
Exactly, Johnny. I mean, I know many of your listeners, either they have children or they have nephews and nieces who they care about. And if a child they loved came up to them, upset, having a tantrum, you wouldn't say, just shut up and go back to playing, right? You wouldn't do that, right? And that's what we do to ourselves. We just say, oh, forget it. And it doesn't lead to a good result because you don't resolve the issue. And that part of you that is that crying child, that tantrum, is only going to spiral and it's going to create what could be burnout later or further discouragement. At the same time, if that child is upset, you don't only just empathize and not try to help the child to work through the challenge. No, you want the child to be happy in the end. You want the child to be able to work through what's coming up, right? So the appropriate thing you would do is you would give that child a hug. That's acknowledging. You'd hug and say, hey, whatever you're feeling right now. And it's okay to feel it. Then you would ask the child questions. What happened? Why are you upset? How can you look at this differently? What are your options, right? You would talk to the child to help the child come up with a solution. And then you would hopefully channel that child into a new action, right? So the way you would talk to a 3-year-old that's having a tantrum is the way that you should be talking to yourself, especially a child that you love very much. Why would you treat that child differently than how you treat yourself? Treat yourself the way you would treat the people you love the most.
Good example of a child and how you just wouldn't like neglect their feelings and push that away. I love that. Quite fun. It's good timing because actually today I got into I was just a bit angry about something, and you know what, like the old me would have been like push through it, but I was like, do you know what, I'm feeling a bit angry about something. I was waiting for an outcome, which I should have heard like about a week ago. Done my influence, done my part. I was just waiting for it, and I was like, I should have heard this a week ago. And it's quite important. I'm like, okay, do you know what? I'm going to allow myself to feel angry. I'm not going to be destructive. But do you know what? Like within about 20 minutes of that, I felt a lot more calmer. I was like, it's got through me now. And I'm like, okay, what am I doing what am I doing next? What am I focusing on? And yeah, so it's so funny you brought that up. It's just not dismissing it, but allowing it to go through. Like
Exactly. What I like about that story too, Johnny, is you also didn't immediately act on that anger either, right? Because that's often what we can fall into too, which is you get angry or you get upset and you immediately take an action. And in that, you're usually taking an action that's fueled in some sort of emotional disruption, and that's not going to serve you. I just had this situation with my sister. I love my sister very much. She did something that upset me. She frustrated me, right? I got angry. And what I could have done is immediately called her and yelled and been upset, right? And I realized that's not the right thing to do. And so I gave myself some time to process it before I called her. I didn't just immediately call, okay? And then when I did call her, though, I also didn't act like everything was okay. I was very clear as to why I was upset. I literally said those words, I am upset. And I told her why I was upset, but I said so in a very calm and composed way. And she immediately took ownership of it and apologized for what she did. And there was a misunderstanding and it was totally okay in the end. And I love my sister. We have a great relationship. I can have those kind of conversations with her. So what I realized from that conversation is what we really need is a healthy balance of honesty and composure. Like if you're upset, be honest with yourself about being upset. Like it's honest, right? And when you go to take any action, be sure it's composed. And if you're not there yet, because you're still really angry, give yourself time to process it before you take the action, because you want to have that healthy balance of honesty and composure.
I love that, honesty and composure. But yeah, allowing yourself to feel and not instantly reacting. That's some great guidance there. Jay, I want to touch a little bit on uncertainty, because I know a lot of people kind of bring that up a lot. Like there's a lot of uncertainty in the world and what's happening, what's happening in my career, with my personal life, or just what's going on in the world. How have you seen people successfully navigate these feelings of uncertainty?
Yeah, well, I remember a time when I was really working through an uncertain time in my life. It was after I left Tesla about 7 years ago, and I was considering starting a business. And I was like, okay, talk about uncertainty, unknowns. I don't know where this is going to go. And so I met with my mentor, and I told him, I said, I'm really afraid of what's going to happen. I'm afraid of the unknown. There's so many unknowns here. This can go in so many different directions. And I remember he looked at me and he said, no, Jay, you're not afraid of the unknown. I said, what? Yeah, I am. What are you talking about? Like, I just laid it all out for you. All of this is unknown. And then he said to me, Jay, no one's afraid of the unknown. Everything is unknown. What you're afraid of is losing the known.
Ooh,
and I had to process it too, Johnny. And I processed that and I was like, man, is he right? Because isn't that really what it's about? When we talk about uncertainty and unknowns, what we're really doing is holding on to what gives us the feeling of safety and security and comfort. And we're afraid to lose that. And that's normal. It's human. Of course there is. What I think is important for people to really learn, and it helps us to be more adaptable, especially in a world where change is never going to, it's not stopping, it's only going to speed up, is to be able to effectively let go of the known or the perceived known. So if you can be able to recognize that your sense of safety, security, control, it's not in the way things were, the job title. Like you're not investing in those things that are temporary. Instead, invest in who you are in regards to your character, your values, the things that are within your circle of influence. If that's what you're telling yourself gives you that sense of safety, then losing what is a perceived known, like the way in which your job used to be, the hierarchy or the market, right? The way the products are being sold, whatever it is. Hey, those things can change, but you yourself, you're going to be okay. It gives you that ability to adapt. So I think that when you're really attaching to things being the way they were, that's problematic. If you're saying, I need it to stay this way in order for me to be okay, you're operating under a belief that's only going to make it difficult for you as uncertainty continues. So what you really need to do is let go of those kind of beliefs and instead have more of an intrinsic sense of identity and what gives you that sense of worth, not an extrinsic one.
Do you think that's what, and I personally see some of the strongest entrepreneurs I've met and speak to, or conversation I've had, they've got that sense of inner belief, like that strong belief inside themselves that actually things are going to be okay. And I know when I've struggled with like uncertainty, I often had to, when I've been very honest with myself in the past, it's like, actually it's a lack of faith in me to deal with it. That's what I found.
You're so right, Johnny. That guy, I work with somebody where, okay, I don't want to say his actual name. I'll say his name is Ben.
Sure.
Because so it was a one-on-one client, and he was always struggling with this. And the thing I would keep telling him is, trust future Ben. Trust future Ben. Like, future Ben's going to know what to do in that moment. If it doesn't go the way you wanted, will future Ben be able to figure it out? And I would ask him, when you went to your past, when something happened that you did not expect, do you think that you handled it well? And the person's a high achiever. He's like, yeah, I handled it really, really well. Okay, so if it were to happen again, do you think that you can handle it well then? He goes, yeah. I said, so in the moment when your fears are coming up and the anxiety and the worry and you're overthinking it all, tell yourself, I trust future Ben. I trust future Johnny, right? Trust future Jay. Like, we're going to figure it out. And so it requires, you're right, it requires a sense of trusting yourself and your future self to be able to figure it out, because we can't predict what's going to happen, Johnny. I can't predict the weather. And how crazy would I be if I tried to control the weather? Right? Like, imagine people were trying to control the weather and then getting upset that the weather didn't go the way they wanted. Those would be crazy people in our society, and they would not be trusted to be able to handle basic day-to-day responsibilities because they sound insane. The same thing happens with anything else that's outside of your control, which is most things. It's like the weather. So if it's like the weather and you don't know what the weather's going to bring tomorrow or next week, you can't predict it. Well, operate the same way when it comes to your career, your work, whatever. Yeah, you stay within your circle of influence, but whatever's going to happen, it's going to happen. And that's something that you just have to deeply embrace, not resist.
Embrace, not resist.
Right. Embrace it. That's the way it is. Why are we fighting with reality? Reality is change is constant. The only certainty is uncertainty. That's the reality. Let us lean into that reality rather than fight it. And I think that the natural human thing is to fight it. But those who are high performers, who have this figured out, what I call the happy high performer, they have shifted their mindset completely and leaned into the fact that that's just the way it is. And I'm going to continue to adapt throughout my journey.
I love it. Yeah, one guy I've learned who's very good, one of my favorite teachers, and I actually have the pleasure of working on this team as well, but very successful entrepreneurial self-mastery expert. And he said he stopped fighting with reality because guess what? It kept winning.
Right. It's undefeated. It's you can't fight the way things are. Accepting reality as it is so important. And Johnny, that's not the same as resigning. I want to be clear on that. Acceptance and resignation are two different things. To say I resign to reality would be like you're in a house that's on fire and you go, well, the house is on fire. I guess I can't do anything about it. So I'm just going to sit here as it burns down. What? No, that's not. I'm telling you to accept that there's a fire. Definitely accept that there's a fire, and then do something to either stop the fire or protect yourself, right? That's the type of acceptance that I'm referring to.
I love that. Jay, so much gold today, so many things to think about for the listener in terms of, really going through that more of resilience approach in life and being able to trust ourselves. And you've given some really great formulas as well, your ABC formula and your resilience formula and much, much more. I'd love to know, as we kind of wrap up today, where is the best place for the listener to find you? I know you've got your book coming out in 2027. I know you've got your podcast. I know you've got many more things. So I'd love to know, first of all, where's the best place or places to find you? And then secondly, is there maybe a final point that you'd like to leave us with today?
Yeah, sure. So jayabbasi.me, my website, is the best place the hub of everything. From there, you could find the podcast, Unstuck with Jay Abbasi. We also have our weekly newsletter, which is the SOS newsletter, where every week I tell a story, I give an observation, and I provide a strategy. which is quite actionable, and that hits your inbox every Monday. And if I forgot to mention LinkedIn, Jay Abbasi, search it. I should pop up pretty soon, pretty quickly. And one lesson I would encourage, maybe we didn't touch on it too much, I just want to double down on, which is you don't have to tell yourself that in order to be happy, you need to achieve your goal. Because as soon as you do that, you are unhappy. If that's your belief that I need that goal in order to be okay, you are separating yourself from your happiness. Instead, choose your goal and go at it passionately while telling yourself happiness is in the journey. That's where the fulfillment comes, not in reaching the mountaintop. Because guess what? When you get to that mountaintop, you're going to look and you'll be like, okay, now there's another mountain that I have to climb. And that's going to keep going. So don't chase your happiness. Be happy now while choosing to set big goals and enjoying the ride.
I love that. And thanks for touching on that. That's a great final point. So Jay's links are in the show notes below, so you can get in touch with Jay and his team that way. You can get all the amazing resources and great work Jay is doing. And Jay, thank you for coming on today and sharing so much great value with us.
Johnny, you are a phenomenal host. This was a fantastic experience. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. So that concludes today's episode. And remember to share your voice by leading with your heart and not with fear.